I work for the state, for Louisiana Department of Transportation in the accounting department also. And that's where I worked in federal aid, where I assisted with grants and things of that nature. The topics we're covering today are going to be the accounts receivables and payables, the revenues and expenses, and payroll and inventory. For accounts receivables are an account basically on the books, which most of the time, most businesses use. However, being a former, you would want to use the cash method versus the accounts receivable. The cash method has more advantages. However, the accrual method of accounting is basically expenses that are made through the business. When you have clients, customers that make purchases, they may purchase it on credit. Basically, you're giving them a product on credit, so they don't pay for it into a later date. This method isn't required to be used unless the company is making 25 million or more. Funds that customers owe, basically the company, will be recorded under the accounts receivable. And again, products are paid on a later date, paid for on a later date. And income is reported when payments are received. Okay, so for the accounts payables are accrual method of accounting also, just as the receivables are. The funds the company owe to vendors or workers, basically. So these are expenses that's recorded in the books, basically, that the company has accrued. So you may purchase from vendors also on credit and pay them at a later date. And then let's get moving. Then you have your revenues. Revenues basically are generated for sales that the business receives. So the total amount of income generated by the company, and this is calculated basically by the number of units sold multiplied by the price of the products that you're purchasing. And then you have your expenses. The expenses, of course, are things that the company purchase. The cost of goods, basically, what you spend to generate your revenue. And this is expense also when the products are purchased. So with the accrual versus cash method, basically, again, regenerate, just in case you guys didn't catch it. When you're working on an accrual bias, basically, whatever is spent or whatever expenses that the company accrue is not paid for at that time. It's usually paid for at a later date. And that's the difference between the receivable, the payables, the expenses, and the income. So basically, again, as a former, I'm not sure if you guys do receivables, if you allow your clients to purchase things on credit, products on credit, or how that works, but that's the way the accounting method works. And then you have your payroll. So basically, payroll is a little bit different from everything else. Is a different aspect or another aspect of accounting. So your payroll is going to basically be your wages to the employees. So your employees are your laborers. Or if you don't, W-2 employees, like you have people that may work for you, under you, and then you have people like maybe some subcontractors who may do a job for you here and there, or may not actually work under your umbrella, but they have their own company or they're just self-contracted, then they would be 1099. So this way, you wouldn't have to worry about paying taxes, paying state taxes, federal taxes, or deducting taxes from these persons. That's something that they would have to do on their own, versus with employees, of course, you're responsible for reducing the taxes from their pay and getting those taxes paid to the government. And these costs are expense to the company, of course. And then insurance and things of that nature that you may provide to your workers. And as the contractors, subcontractors, they will be responsible for those things themselves. And then we have the inventory. So inventory is anything that you will have basically stocked away, put away. And we have the LIFO method, and then we have the FIFO method. So LIFO is actually last in, first out. And then the FIFO method is first in, first out, which I'm sure as farmers, first in, first out would probably be the best inventory method that you would use, because whatever crop is raised or grown first, you want to get that out before it spoils or goes bad. Then you want to try to get those things out first. So FIFO would be the method that you would use. And I was supposed to put the inventory slide, actually was the last slide. But what I will do, since I went through that a little bit quickly, is see if anyone have any questions about anything.
Yeah, just one.
Or is everyone muted?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a minimum dollar amount? Like if you have just people for hire, but it's not really a business, it's just kind of small scale farming where you need a 1099?
So there's not well, 500 or more. So if you pay a subcontractor within a year, $500 or more, then they would have to be a 1099. They would have to get a 1099, yes.
Guys, y'all can ask any question y'all need. I think she's in question mode now.
Or anything else that you'd like me to reiterate, because I did go through it kind of fast. It's tax season, and again, sorry I was late. I was finishing up with a client, but yeah, it's a busy time of the year for me at the moment.
I have a question. This is Dolores.
Dolores.
So let's say that I had someone to do some work for me, and I didn't get a a W-9 whenever they did the work, and later on in the year, I'm trying to reach them to get them to do the the W-9 for me, right? And I cannot reach them. They have disappeared. And they've done over $600 worth of work for me. So what do I do in that case?
So in that case, I would say upfront, when you hire someone to do a job for you, basically you want to try to go ahead and have them fill that out. Even if the job may not be, if it's a subcontract, I'm sorry, and the job may not be 500 or more, you never know if you may need their services again. So I would say in the beginning, when you first hire them to do the job, have them fill that form out. But since you have experienced that, what you can do is, again, on a cash basis, when you're filing taxes, there are more tax advantages. So therefore, you would be able to report that labor still on a schedule, on your Schedule F, basically as contract labor. You just won't have the person's information to furnish them the 1099.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ms. Thomas. I hope everyone is well. And I want to express my gratitude for this virtual discussion this morning. The question that I have, Ms. Thomas, I think at the beginning of your presentation, you were discussing, I think you said the accrual method. And I was wondering if you could review that portion. I think it was at the beginning of the presentation.
So here, when we were talking about accounts receivable, so basically accounts receivables, accounts payable, these are expense accounts. However, they are, is this what you're wanting to know, or is there anything in particular that you want to know about it?
Yeah, yes, this is, if you could maybe just review it once again.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, this is the accrual method. So basically these are expenses that's incurred basically either as it relates to receivables. These are accounts where you may sell a product or something to a customer, and the customer may be purchasing on credit, like an IOU basically. So you give them a product and they pay you for it on a later date. And as for, let's see, as for the other side of it, the business side, your end of it, yours would actually be the accounts payable. So these are expenses that you have acquired in the business, but you have not yet paid for them. So you may have received a service or product from a vendor, but you have not yet paid them. These expenses cannot be, say, if you go into December 31st having a liability, owing a company for a product or a service. This is something that cannot carry over into the next year tax return. So basically, when you say go to file your taxes, you have to only claim expenses and income that was received within that year. So that's the one disadvantage of using the accrual method. As for cash, again, the reverse side of that, you can expense whatever you've paid out within that year, and you can claim that on your return. And whatever income you receive, you can claim on the return for that year.
Miss,
Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas.
Was that
Thomas,
clear?
could you give us a real life example of something that might happen in those that they can?
So yeah, so say if that's like, so I do taxes. I have some people pay cash. They pay upfront out of pocket, and then I have some people who may pay through their return, through their refund if they receive a refund. So if, say if I was doing someone's taxes December 25th and it was coming out of their refund, I may not receive those funds until January of the next year. So therefore, that's income that I've earned. I've earned the income because I did the work and I'm going to get paid for it, but I haven't gotten paid for it yet. So I wouldn't be able to claim it in that current year. I will have to claim that the next tax year because I will be receiving the funds in that particular year.
So you're saying if a farmer went to the farmer's market and sold a bundle of strawberries, they sold some strawberries, but the payment wasn't going to come until January, but I sold it in December. So I can't claim that until the next fiscal year because of when I got the payment.
Correct.
Okay.
So yes. Income or expenses are not recognized with the accrual method until it has been expensed or paid.
Is there any method that we can occur that I can log that in now instead of later?
Yes, you would. So you would log it. It would be logged, but it just wouldn't carry over to like a tax return. You wouldn't be able to file it on your tax return. But it would definitely be logged because you have to keep track of what's due you, what your customers owe you, and you also have to keep track on your side what you may owe your vendors.
I have another question. This is Dolores again.
Okay.
I'm sharing the ownership of a piece of property with two other siblings, and we've had some expenses on the on this property. So do we separately report what we've spent, or I mean, what would be the best way for doing that?
How is the company incorporated? Is it an LLC, a SCorp, a C-Corp? Like, how is the big company registered?
It's just, it's not a company.
Mhm.
It's just land that's owned by the three of us, undivided.
Okay, so yeah, you can report that separately. Basically, you can break the cost up into three, and you guys
Mhm.
can separate it and file it on your returns that way. Mhm.
Okay,
If it was a
cool.
company, then it
And
would.
what would be, you were saying?
No, you were gonna, and I was just saying if it was an
Yeah,
actual company, then you can file it together and you guys will be partners on that filing. So then it would
okay,
separate it amongst the three of you.
right. So we were looking into maybe trying to do this. We were trying to look up some options as far as what would be beneficial to us to keep this, to be able to run the business a little bit more objectively, so we were looking into LLCs or I don't even, other different options. What do you think would be the best way?
Well, I think
So we can
LLC,
keep our expenses for the business separate
right, I think
from our
LLC,
personal and
I
LLC.
believe LLC would be the way to go, especially starting off. And it's important to have that because right now, if you're not incorporated as any type of company, then it's easy for someone to sue you if, say they receive some bad goods or just, someone got sick or anything like that, then they can sue you all personally. So then they can take, from your personal assets and things of that nature. The LLC actually protects you from that. They can only go after what you have invested in the business, within the business, but they cannot touch your personal assets.
Okay. All right, we're looking into that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question? Do y'all have anyone to help you do that, or because we will be having a person from hopefully with the lawsuit talk to us about different things in that nature. Do y'all need any help in that area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Mr. Robert, you had a question?
No, it's been answered.
You answer? Okay. What other topics in the bookkeeping area? Because there are having a physical ledger as opposed to maybe having a software do the work or having a company. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of that in this time?
Well, it's good to have both, and I actually use both. I use accounting software, and then I also use manual quick Excel, and I use both of them because it's better so that I can reconcile and make sure that everything adds up. And you want to be able to reconcile to something than to depend on one source, because then you don't, you're not sure if it's accurate or if there is a calculation off or something is missing. So it's always good to have something to compare it to reconcile to.
Is it advantageous for them to get if you have a small business, we consider small farmers who make less than, I think, 500,000 a year. Would it be advantageous for them to have not only their own personal accountant that they can see once a year or at least several times a year, or is it what they call what's the person above an accountant one with the license? I can't think of the name.
The CPA, the Certified
CPA.
Public Accountant.
Yeah, what about the differences between a CPA and a bookkeeper and accountant?
Well, I would say that as it relates to CPA is certificate, and I don't have that. I am an accountant. I would say the major difference is cost, the amount that you're going to pay the person basically that's performing the services. However, as it relates to knowledge, I mean, the knowledge comes from experience, training, things of that nature. But it's not to say that one person or the CPA is smarter than the accountant or knows more. But it's those extra credentials that they have, the extra step that they've taken. But as for the business owner, basically it's cost. You're gonna pay more money.
Can they use that as an expense in their
Of
ledger?
course, that is an expense to the business. Any services or products that you pay for to run or operate the business is going to be an expense. Yes.
So I have one more question. Some farmers may have applied for the PPP loan. How do they account for those funds in their
So
business practice?
the PPP loan, basically it was something that was given. So actually it was given due to a disaster. And it's not something that they are inquiring about or asking to be reported on the tax return. But you basically want to make sure that you get it forgiven. The PPP is actually the first payment, I want to say, is due after the first 10 months of receiving the funds. So you definitely want to make sure that you get that forgiven.
Do they put it in there? How do they express it in their account book?
You can put it actually under owner's equity, or you can put it under owner's capital. It's capital basically that you use to put in the business, and you use it for business purposes. So you can put that under owner's capital.
All right. So if they do get it wiped away or forgiven, how would they calculate that at the end?
Well, that's the thing, because it's at that point it's kind of like giving like a grant. So they're not looking for you to report that as income.
Okay. So we have another question. Any recommendations for inventory software?
Any recommendations for inventory software? So like QuickBooks does a good job of covering all that inventory, everything, pretty much everything that you need, and you can kind of basically set it up to which accounts that's necessary for your business.
Okay. Another question is,
I got a question.
another question is there a minimum dollar amount that requires a Form 1099?
Yes, I think Ms. Dolores or someone may have asked that question, but yes, $500 or more. But as I expressed, anytime someone comes to do work for you, even if it's under $500, you want to go ahead and have them fill out the necessary forms, because you don't know when you may need them again. So say you may pay them $100 today, but then you need them again a couple of months later, and you may pay them $200, but you never know how often you may need them. So throughout the year, you may pay them, up to 500 or more. So it's good to have them fill out those necessary forms again, so that you're not kind of stuck looking for them later, to get their information.
All right, Ms. Renee asked a question. Is a loan, if taken out for farm equipment, should the entire loan be expensed that year or over the life of the loan?
Over the life of the loan.
Okay, that's pretty simple. Mr. Crawford asked, what are the advantages and disadvantages of filing foreign business or SCorp rather than an LLC?
Well, basically, with the LLC, even though it's an LLC, it's still going to be recorded on your taxes as a form. So it will be recorded on a Schedule F when you go to report taxes.
And what about an SCorp?
So as for the SCorp, I would say, if you have workers, employees, basically if you have a sizable company, then you would want to go with that method.
SCorp. Is there a tax advantage for SCorp as rather than an LLC?
There are different advantages for both. However, being that, like you said, these companies are smaller, the LLC will be the way to go to start off. And as it tends to grow, then basically merge into an SCorp.
Okay.
I have one question. How often can you, I have a very small operation, livestock operation. And let's say for the last 3 years, I've shown a loss in my operation.
Mhm.
I've been audited once and I've shown that I did have a loss. Is there, this is gonna put you in a position where you're gonna get audited pretty regularly if you consistently show a loss?
No, basically, I mean, if your business has a loss, then there's nothing you can really do about that. It has a loss, so it's not gonna necessarily make you, target to an audit or anything like that. The IRS sometimes they do audits just randomly on different people, and they do that, to prevent fraud, identity theft, things of that nature. But then they go over, the return to, and at that time they may or may not find something that's to audit. So it just
No.
depends. But if you actually incurred loss, then I mean,
Yeah,
you have a loss.
you incurred a loss, and let's say you come out even on taxes. So
Mhm.
you basically pretty neutral on your taxes.
Mhm.
I just thought that would put you in a position to be targeted for an audit.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't put you in a position to be targeted for an audit. No.
Okay.
Can you explain why someone would get audited whereas someone else wouldn't get audited?
Well, pretty much, as I just stated, that the IRS sometimes they do random audits. However, say a business may have an expense that may not make sense for that particular business, and that may cause a red flag for someone to be audited. Say if someone like overstated something like material, they're looking for like material things that that's
Inconsistencies.
greatly, inconsistencies, things that's greatly maybe overstated. Say like if you say you made $0 or something, and yet you have like this huge expense, so it's like, okay, you know, you made no money, but you spent all this money. So I mean, stuff like that, raises red flags.
So I have another question. Is there a
Mhm.
maximum number of years you can have a loss without facing penalties or something?
No, and a lot of people think that that there is. They say, 3 years, this, that, and so forth. But that's not necessarily true. Because again, if the business incurred a loss, then it incurred a loss. So they can't put a number on how many years you're able to have a loss, basically.
So
I
we
have
have,
a question with that, because I'm used to hearing that. So are they looking at it as having a loss versus like if you make money but you pay out more, that's considered a loss, right?
Yes, it is.
But
Mhm.
I think what I was looking at is like if you just never have any money coming in and you always have expenses, is that when the red flags go up? Because in the startup,
Right.
it's not going to be any money coming in.
Right, exactly. So the startup, of course, you're gonna spend more money in the beginning than income that you receive. So 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have a loss that first year anyway. Yeah.
Well, I mean, past the first year, like how many years?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So they can't actually put a number on how many years that you can claim a loss, because who knows how long it may take, for your business to start striving and to actually be successful and make money. But again, like I said, a lot of people, you may hear a lot of people say 3 years, so forth and whatnot, but that's not the case.
I've heard the same thing. I'll be honest with you. I have a business myself, but
Mhm.
because it was the type of business, it took a long time to generate funds and
Mhm.
and the longevity of it. And you got to think about COVID right now. There's going to be a lot of loss because the
Right.
last few years we've been dealing with COVID. So a lot of business is predicated on that.
Right.
So when I
Right.
calculate my
Exactly.
expenses, my accounting, I always put everything that I spend money on, keep receipts for everything. So
Right.
that the space I use, to the knowledge I use, to all these other things. And I keep that so that if anything comes up, I have some kind of
You'll have
information
records.
to present to them.
Right, and that's you want to definitely do that so that you have those records in case you are audited.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can.
How would you report if you use your personal income expenses, your funds to contribute to the business expense? How would you report that time?
So basically that goes under what I said earlier, capital. So it's basically like funds that you've invested into the business and it's owner's capital.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions that people just ask anything? Yes. Ask anything that y'all want, please.
I have another questions on the W-9. So does it matter the size of the company that's doing the work for you?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, because I had like major plumbing done and it was central plumbing and they're pretty big and I wasn't sure whether or not I needed to get one from them since they were so big, but everybody, okay.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter the size of the company. Are you talking, Brian? Because I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, my apologies, I was on mute. I want to thank Ms. Rachel. She has been very helpful for us today, and I think she's going to go really into taxes on the 15th, right, Ms. Rachel?
Yes, I will.
And I suggest if you do, I can't say y'all can use her, but I think that you can call her if you have any questions. I'm sure she has some contact information that she can share with you guys that she can ask, questions come up later. People, have questions later. So please, Ms. Rachel, in the chat, can you put your contact information?
I can do that.
And I can share, I have a business card I can share with you guys if you would like. I'll share that also. And I want to thank Ms. Rachel for her time. And please, guys, do me a favor. These professionals taking time out their busy day to get with us on content that can help you form, grow, and can help make things better for your organization. Let your friends know, bring them along. We're also going to post this on our social media. So we're going to post that later, but please let everyone know for the one on the 15th. We would like to see double the participants. Thank you guys and appreciate you. Please join us on the 15th. We have another event. She'll be strictly focusing on taxes. Also, we should have some other events in the pipeline that we're going to cover. We also, I did take note that ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, I'm gonna try to get somebody who can cover that for us. I think that's going to be helpful, beneficial, and maybe if anybody wanted to know any information, I was thinking maybe on USDA grants and stuff like that. We'll try to cover some of those things. I know that can help your organization out. I can't think of anything else to say, but thank you guys again. Try to make sure that you have other participants, other friends, and other organizations chime in on the 15th, and we'll go from there. Thanks again. Y'all have a good day.
And if it's easier for you guys, you can probably take a screenshot. I don't know what you're using, or if you're on the phone to get the information real quick, maybe faster or easier to just take a screenshot of it.
I'm gonna stay on as long as anyone else needs. I'm sure Ms. Rachel stay on a few more minutes.
So the one on the 15th, you might have said it, but I was writing. What time?
It's going to be the same time. I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna put the flyer up right now.
Okay.
And that one is on taxes. So if you look in the chat, it's in there now.
Okay. And do y'all have anything else scheduled, I guess, in the near future besides the 15th?
Well,
Or
I
like downtime?
have another one that we're preparing on, let me go back to my notes, on, I think it's on, it's about legal representation, so property rights, air rights and stuff like that. We're gonna cover things like that. So if you have a farm already, you have property and you know, you need some information, they're gonna help cover those areas on property rights, land rights, wills, you know, getting succession, those things that we don't normally do, those things in. I think those things are gonna help a lot of people in the future. And then we have some other topics that I personally want to cover, but my coworkers have some topics also that they're covering. So we're gonna have a calendar of events that you can go to and join anytime. We want to gain some momentum by doing this, by getting you guys to start participating and then saying, hey, look, I need content on this. And we want to cover some content also.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel, we appreciate your time that you've taken out with us, and we really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. And again, you have my information. So if you need anything else, any more questions answered, feel free to call. And I'll do what I can for you.
Again, thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you.